Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing part 2 of our tutorial playthrough of the game Comancheria. This is from designer Joel Toppen and published by GMT Games. And where we left off in part 1, and if you haven't watched part 1, it'd probably be a good idea to watch it before you jump in here for part 2. But where we left off in part 1 was basically the finishing of the first turn, so to speak. And now we're going to move on to our second turn. So as we saw in the first one, you start off here. Let me grab the old sequence of play so you can see this. So you can see you got war column phase, which does not, we don't have any war columns on the map, so we don't have to worry about it. Now you have your operations selection phase or operation selection phase, and you can see you've got a few different choices: take actions, culture planning, or passage of time. Only if your operations is in a numbered space, which it currently is not. We got 2 more before we get to our numbered space. So this time we're going to do a planning action, planning operation. Since our Mahimiana for Rancheria A, which is the only one we have, this guy right here, has at least 1 success counter. We've got 3 of them, in fact. We will increase his medicine rating by 1. So we're going to slide our counter from 2 to 3. And that costs us 1 success counter, I believe. So we take that out, drop it back in the cup. Step 2, now it's time for a shakedown dance. There is a note here in our rule book that it mentions in the tutorial for us to read, and it's right here, that you would follow a successful raid. It would be a common practice to share the spoils with others in a rancheria. To the Comanche, giving of gifts meant that you were in relationship with one another. Furthermore, it was socially important to be generous. Hoarding of wealth was not common in Comanche society. The shakedown dance was a dance that was held at which anyone could come and take from the spoils of the successful warriors. The more you gave, the higher you rose in the society. So as part of step 2 here, our only in-play Rancheria has success counters on the Mahimiana's medicine track. So we transfer 1 of these from the Mahimiana to the Paraibo. And we've done that. Now we have split them. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to put that one. I wasn't supposed to throw this one back. That's what I get for not looking at the rules here before I do that. So there are 2 there and the Mahimiana and 1 with the Paraibo now. Then since there's still at least 1 success counter on the Mahimiana's medicine track, we increase his medicine rating by 1. We then transfer our success counter. So let's move him up to 4. And we then transfer 1 success counter from the Mahimiana's medicine track to any space on the operations track, which is over here. So we'll do that. We'll take 1 here and put it on the operations track right there. That has the fewest, we have to put it in a space that has the fewest success counters already in it, but since there are none, it is our choice. So we put it in the space just below the operations counter. You'll see why this is a good move in just a moment. Okay, so we've completed step 2, but there is still 1 more success counter in our Mahimiana's medicine track, so we will repeat this step, and we will transfer our last success counter from the Mahimiana's medicine track to the Paraibo. Now there are no more on the Mahimiana's track, so we can move on to step 3. Okay, in step 3, we increase the medicine of any Paraibo who has success counters in his medicine track. In our case, we have 2. So I'm going to move him up to 4, and we're going to put these in the out of play box down here. One of the side effects of this is that we'll have fewer success counters inside the draw cup, which increases the odds of drawing enemy APs during success checks. This represents the growing vigilance of the enemy of the Comanche. In step 4, this step gets a lot more interesting when we get more rancherias. Since we only have 1 right now, we only have 1 Paraibo to conduct Headman actions. Here we face a choice. We could take one Headman action with our Para Aibo, or we can roll the dice in the hope that he can take more than one Headman action. For the purposes of the demo, we will roll, let's say we rolled the dice and got a 3. That's a good result because it means we will get to take 3 Headman actions with this Para Aibo. If we rolled a 5 or 6, however, because those results are greater than his medicine rating, we would not have been able to take any Headman actions, so it's a gamble. And obviously, the higher his medicine rating, the better the chance that you'll be able to pull it off. Okay, for Headman Action 1, we will spend 1 action point and take the Ute Alliance development card into our hand. So that is this card right here. Right, it says spend 1 AP to take into hand, and then you can play from hand to place 3 strength band into any map space, or play from hand and roll a die on a 1 or 2, no effect, 3 to 6. Player may remove 1 tribe or settlement from play and does not end peace. Okay, so we have this in our hand now. Okay, since we spent the 1 AP, it's right here, we move it to 0, leaving us with 0 APs. So for our Headman action number 2, we can acquire an AP, so we're going to move this back up to 1. And that costs him 1 medicine, so he dropped to number 3. And for our third action, we will acquire 1 more AP, so we'll move up to 2, and he knock the Para Aibo down to 2 medicine points. And that is the end of that. Step 5 does not apply to us right now, so we will skip that. And in step 6 of planning, in this step, we are forced to reduce the strength of all bands that are currently on their finished side. So we will remove both finished bands from the Rancheria's resource box. That's right here. We've got 2 of them. They are both on their finished side. And place them in the out of play. And then we're going to take 2 1/6s out of here. Right? So we've got these 2 guys now, and we're going to put them in here. So when this happens, your finished 1 strength bands will die in this step. This represents ongoing attrition. We will be able to generate new bands during passage of time by spending acquired bison, food, and other captive or captives resources. Now we go to step 7 of planning. This step is the primary way that we may move in play Rancheria counters onto the map. Since we have a total of 4 strength points in Rancheria A box here, 2 and 2, we can move up to 4 spaces. We can move along dashed or solid lines, but because we can't enter an enemy space. The only space Rancheria A can move into is Upper Arkansas number 2. So that would be from here to here. The square enemy space over here is connected to Upper Arkansas by dashed line to Upper Arkansas number 1, and 4 and 5 are also obviously are also enemy spaces. Now, if there were a peace instruction in the West Square's enemy space, our Rancheria could enter that space but not stop there, pass through it, and then move on to Llano Estacado number 1, and either stop there or continue on Arkansas 3. Similarly, if there were an ally instruction in Upper Arkansas 4, our Rancheria could enter that one but not stop there, and then move past it into Red River, Arkansas number 6, or Paladoro Canyon, or even beyond that to Llano Estacado number 4, Brazos, Colorado 3. Note that the movement of the Rancheria will not affect bison, so you're not going to pick up any bison along the way here. We're not going to move, I guess. Actually, no, we will move. We are moving, according to the tutorial, to Upper Arkansas 2, because this makes it easier for us to raid the tribes blocking our passage south. That would be these 2 guys right here. So we are adjacent to them now. All right, so in step 8, the enemy gets to execute a free instruction, so they're going to get to do something themselves here. So similar to what was done in the Operation Cleanup phase, which is in the first video, we first have to roll a die to identify which enemy is going to act. For the purposes of the tutorial, we're going to assume that we rolled a 6, and that means the south enemy, which is down here, kind of very bottom of the map in the bottom left. That is also a Spanish enemy. Okay, so The next step is to roll the die again, or roll a die again, and on the enemy instruction display, which is over here in the bottom right, to see what instruction counter on the active enemies column of the display will flip over. So we're in the south column, which is the green here. And let's say we roll a 2, cross-indexing this result with the south column. We flip over south B, making it war. Now we execute the topmost instruction of the active enemies column for free. That would be settle. So we go to the settle procedure. And step 1 of the settle procedure does not apply here. And that is because there is no ravaged counter in there. So we would move on to the second one. And we can't place a settlement into Rio Grande number 5. That is right here, because there is a tribe there. And Rio Grande 3 is adjacent to an enemy, to the south square enemy space, but only by a dashed line connection. And besides that, the line connection is white and thus not an enemy connection. Okay, so they can't go there. Rio Grande 4 and Brazos 6, which are over here, are both 2 movement points away from the south enemy space. Note that bison do not block placement. Since we have 2 spaces equally near to the south's square enemy space, we will choose the one with the lowest area value. That means we place the south settlement into the Rio Grande number 4, not the Brazos, Colorado number 6. The bison counter in Rio Grande 4 is returned to stock, so we would put that in the available resources box. Okay, so they're moving here. 4, where's 4? Right here. I'm going to take this and we're going to put it back in here. And then we're going to put a settlement in there. Those are located here. So we grab this guy out of here. This is a settlement counter. And we're going to put that in Rio Grande 4. So now we have a Spanish settlement in there. And now we reset. So we take this and we move this over here. Then all of these guys move up. Step 9. We're back to our planning procedure. The operations counter is not in a numbered space. That's up here. So all we have to do here is advance it 1 space towards must-do passage of time and move on to the operation cleanup phase. Okay, so we've moved it there. Now, once we get to 3, we will be in a numbered space, and that'll change some stuff for us, but we don't have to worry about that yet. So step 1 of our operation cleanup phase, there are no stacking violations, and there are no resource counters on the operations track, but there is a success counter in the same space. So we're going to go ahead and put that in the cup. Okay. There are no finished bands in our rancheria. All of our bands are in unfinished state. They're all basically face up, not face down, or not backside visible, I guess. We go on to step 3. We draw a counter from the success draw cup. For the purposes of the demo, let's say it's a success counter. Thankfully, the enemy doesn't get any additional APs to spend against us, but there are enemy APs right here. They have 3 available that were left over, so they can attempt to spend them. So we're going to return our success counter back, drawing that we drew back into the cup. So we'll assume I did that. Here's our cup right here. So this is where we draw our counters from. Okay, so now we roll to see which enemy activates. We roll a 2. So that's the north. So that's the gray ones, and these represent enemy tribes. And then for the die roll, the next die roll for the flip is a 6. So we go to the 6 and we flip this hunt to its other side, like so. Now the enemy, it goes to the encroach side. The enemy has 3 APs to spend. The topmost north instruction is raid with a cost of 2. So we're going to spend 2 enemy APs, leaving them with 1. And this is going to end up over here, so I'll just slide it for the moment so I remember. Okay, so now we go to our raid action for the enemy, which is in the rules under 6.3.6. So step 1, if the North already has a war column, which it does not, so we're going to skip that. And it does have a ravaged counter in a space belonging to the active enemy, right there in Upper Arkansas 4. It's going to terminate the raid procedure and instead will conduct a recover operation, which takes this away. But you have to check for the in-play cards. The in-play card here, our history card, which is this guy right here. So our history card, enemy recover instructions succeed only on a die roll of 1 to 3. Okay, if it's 4 to 6, the APs are spent, but no ravaged counter is removed. So they have to roll a die. And let's say we roll a 3, which means the recovery is a success, and we return our ravaged counter to stock. Then we slide this over, which I already did. And there's only one enemy AP left available to spend. And this next one would cost 3, so they can't do it. So I'm going to slide all these up. They're going to keep that 1 AP for the future. I'm going to slide all this stuff up here, like so, and we're going to move our raid to the bottom. Okay, now we're back to the cleanup phase for step 4, and it doesn't apply right now because there are no war columns in play. So this time we'll go back to our operation success selection phase rather, and it's time to take some actions again, which we did in part 1. So again, if you want to see that, you should go check out part 1. So we're going to place our lone 2 strength band into the 1 space on our Paraibo's medicine track, right here. And then we're going to place one of our 1 strength bands into the 0 space. This is what will allow them to get onto the map and do stuff. So let's activate our 2 strength band and equip it with a horse. So we're going to take one of our horses from our Rancheria resources box and put it with number 2. And then we're going to place it on the map in Upper Arkansas number 2 temporarily, but we're going to spend 1 movement point, and it's got 5 of those, as you can see on the counter there, the number 5 on the right. And we're going to move it to Upper Arkansas 4 and spend 1 more movement point to raid. So that leaves us with 3, and we can track that over here. We have a counter for it. And if I put it on 3, that helps me remember that we've got 3 movement points. Now we're going to make a success check. Since we did not equip our band with a Mahimiana, we only draw 2 counters from the draw cup, 1 for each strength point in our band, which is a 2 strength band. So the other one that's still over here, he's only going to get to draw 1 unless we bring our Mahimiana out with us, which we likely will do. For the purposes of the tutorial, we're going to assume we draw a 2 enemy AP and a success from the draw cup. So here is our 2 enemy APs and our success counter. The 2 enemy APs will go down here in the available enemy AP box. Now in our first turn, our first take actions in part 1, we were able to put this in our Mahimiana's box because he was on the raid. He's not on this raid, so he doesn't get any credit for a success for his leadership. So what do we do with it instead? We spend it and collect 1 captives counter from available stock. So we're going to take a captives, which is this guy right here, right? We're going to take that and we're going to place it under the band to show ownership. And then we're going to place a ravaged counter into Upper Arkansas number 4. So we place this under here, and they're going to move on here in a moment. And we're also going to place another ravaged counter on there. Now we have 3 MPs left. So let's raid the space again. All right, so we're going to re-raid the same space. So we're going to draw 2 again. And this time we're going to have bad luck and draw a 4 enemy AP and a 2 enemy AP. So we got a 4 and we got a 2. Okay, so we're going to put these in our available enemy box, which gives them now 8 plus the One they already have, so they now have 9 of them. So they're going to be able to do some stuff here on their next activation. Okay, so we put those in there, and since we failed to draw even a single success, we do not get to collect horses or captives, nor do we place a ravaged counter. So now we're going to take a look at the while in play text on the Apache War development card, which is still in play. So that's up here. I'm going to grab it. So while in play, after completing a player action, if there are 3 or more ravaged counters on a tribe, remove that tribe from play. Return ravaged counters to stock. What we were attempting here was really to get that second ravaged counter on that tribe. Had we been successful, I would now want to raid again and hope to put a third one and kill it. But since we only have 2 MPs left and we don't have extra horses, you can use horses to spend. We want to think this over, right? So you want to kind of think about it because this is where some strategy comes in. Right? Another option would lie in our hand of cards. So we drew the Ute Alliance card. So let's look at that. And it says you can spend, well, we already did spend the AP to take into hand. We can play from hand to place a 3 strength band into any map space, or we can roll a die, and on a 3 to 6, we can remove a tribe or settlement from play. So guess what we're going to try to do with this card? So we are going to roll the die, and let's assume that we roll well and get a result higher than a 2. This means we get to remove a tribe or settlement counter from play, and we're going to use it to remove the tribe from Upper Arkansas number 4. So we're going to take that off there, and we're going to put it in the out of play box. So that goes, well, there aren't any that aren't out already, so we'll just put it down there in the bottom. Then we have to look at what we do with our ravaged counter. That's in rules, rule 1.3.2. We remove it and put it back into the out of play box. So we're going to put it, our out of play box has gotten quite crowded. I think I'm just going to stick it out over here where I have the other ones. Off map, but I know where they are. All right. So basically what we've done is gone to war with some Plains Apaches living along the riverbeds of the Arkansas River. Our foes were resilient, and so we enlisted the aid of our friends who first introduced us to the horse. That would be the Utes. The Ute allies helped us to conquer our first piece of land that will bear the name Comancheria. Our band still has 2 MPs to spend. We'll spend 1 to move to Red River number 6. That is right here. And then we will move into Lower Arkansas number 5, which is here. Yeah, that's right. All right, it's right. I'm going to flip this to finished. And our horses and captives stay underneath to show possession. Now we still have a 1 strength band in our medicine track. For the band in the 0 space, we have 2 choices. We could activate him, or we could put him back in the resources box in an unfinished state. Now why would we want to do that? That's this guy right here that we're talking about. So the tip says, why would we want to do nothing and put him back? Well, he cannot be eliminated during a planning operation. Also, bands which are unfinished are stronger in battle, so if we expect an enemy war column to attack, we would want an unfinished band to fight with. Since we don't plan on doing planning in the immediate future and there are no war columns in play, let's activate him. So we're going to activate him, and we're going to equip him with the Mahimiana and a horse. So we do that. Now this band has 6 movement points to spend, so we'll spend 1 to move to Upper Arkansas 4, because they always start in your Rancheria, and 1 more to move to Upper Arkansas number 3, which is over here. Now normally it costs 3 MPs to hunt, but since we have a Mahimiana with us, it only costs 2, so we're going to go ahead and spend those. Okay, so we moved here for 1 and then there for 2, so we started with 6, so that would leave us with 4. Then we're spending 2 for the hunt, which allows us to take the bison from here. Now we'll go ahead and we'll spend our last 2 MPs to move back to Upper Arkansas number 2 via 4. So we're going to just go back there like so and back here. Now we flip it to the band finish side and place it with the horse and the bison and the Mahimiana counters stacked under it into the resources box of Rancheria A. All right. So that means we put it back over here. And we flip it to the finished side, like so. Okay, so now we're at step 4 of our take actions procedure. So we're going to spend some action points to reactivate our 2-strength band, these guys over here. To activate a band during this step, we must spend a number of APs equal to its strength. So in this case, it's 2. So we're going to slide our APs down again to 0. And we're going to flip our band back to his active side, like so. Then we're going to spend 1 movement point to move from Lower Arkansas 5 to Lower Arkansas 4. So we're going here. And we'll spend... That leaves us with 5. So let me do this so I make sure I keep track. So we're going to put that on the 5 because we've spent 1 so far. Now he has 5 that he can use for action. So we're going to spend 1 to move from Lower Arkansas 5 to Lower Arkansas 4. Wait, what? Let me see something here. What? Flipped. Oh, for flipping, he loses an action. He loses 1 MP, I guess. Oh no, he's a 2. That's why 2s start with 5. So he starts with 5. I confused myself. Starts with 5 here, moves there. That costs 1. So he's at 4 now. And next we spend 3 for hunting the bison, since we don't have a Mahimiana with us. So he's going to collect this bison, leaving him with 1 action point, and we'll spend that last one to move back to Lower Arkansas 5. We flip to finished, and the band now has possession of a horse, a captive, and a bison. The reason that we brought this band out here and left him outside of the rancheria is this. We're looking ahead to when we do a passage of time operation, and during the passage of time we'll be able to establish a new rancheria using this independent band and the resources that the band has accumulated. So we're working towards building ourselves a new rancheria, a second rancheria, which is one of the victory points for this era here. If we look at the victory point objectives, player must control Upper Arkansas and have a rancheria in a second territory. We are currently in the Lower Arkansas, which is another territory. So if we put a rancheria there, we are halfway to completing our victory conditions, as long as we can build it and keep it. Now for step 5 of take actions, we will advance the operations counter 1 space down the operations track. And now we are in a numbered space. That number is 3. This means that after the next operation we conduct, we have to roll a die. And if it's 3 or less, we will be forced to conduct a passage of time operation. Okay, so step 1 of the operation cleanup phase. Our 1-strength band in possession of a horse, bison, and a Mahimiana in the resources box of Rancheria A relinquishes ownership by basically moving off of that. So he goes there. I'll put the Mahimiana back over here. Then we have a horse and a bison. So I'm going to stack the 2 bison together and the 2 horses together like so. Okay. Now we roll a die for Rancheria A. Our die roll is 3, which is higher than the number of finished bands in the resources box. Thus, the enemy does not get a free instruction in this step. And you have to note that our finished band that's not in the Rancheria right now does not impact this roll. So they don't have any effect there. So for the purposes of the demo, let's say we draw 3 enemy APs from the cup. That I got one. So that would go in here as well. So now they're really sitting on a nice stack here. I have a total of 11 enemy APs in the box and 1 on the track. So that gives them a total of 12. Now we roll our die to see which enemies are active, and it is a 1 again. So that will be the north over here again. Our row roll is a 2. So our hunt 2 here becomes flipped over and becomes a raid counter instead. And they're going to get to do, it looks like all four, maybe four actions here, because these all cost 3. So, okay, so we're going to spend the first 3. We'll spend our 3 marker here, and I'll just throw that back in the cup. And this pays for the ally 3 instruction at the top, so that's this guy right here. So since there are no ravaged counters in any north spaces, we get to make an ally of a tribe counter. It is our choice as to where to place the ally counter. We'll put it on the tribe in Upper Arkansas number 5. So we just take this counter and we're going to stick it right on here. So that's our ally now. Since Upper Arkansas 5 contains a tribe counter, that space would ordinarily be considered as an enemy space, but now that we placed an ally on it, it's considered to be a peace space. Peace space status trumps enemy space status, so this means that at the moment, since we have a rancheria in Upper Arkansas and there's not a single enemy space in that territory, we control Upper Arkansas. And this fulfills the most difficult part of the victory objective on the current history card. So now as I mentioned, if we can establish a rancheria in the Lower Arkansas, where we already have one, or perhaps in Red River, or just somewhere that's not the Upper Arkansas, then we will have completed our victory conditions and win. Okay, alliances are fragile. This is a tip. So during our passage of time, a die roll will be made for each peace space. The lower the AP cost of the ally or peace instruction counter, the more likely it is that the peace will be broken and the space will immediately revert to enemy space status. You've been forewarned, treaties and alliances are easily broken. All right. Now, since our instruction counter left the instruction display, there's one empty space until that ally counter is returned to the display due to the peace being broken. When you roll for the instruction counter, if you roll the empty space, there's no effect. No instructions flip in that case. Now the enemy will spend 3 APs to execute the Raid 3 inspection at the top of the North's column. So we're just going to move this up. And instead of sliding it to inactive, we actually put it on the map. That's what I just explained. So now we're going to do the Raid action. So we're going to take a 4 here because we don't have a 3. So we're going to take this 4, put it in a cup, and we're going to slide this up to 2. So we've now spent 3, leaving them with 6. And enemy raid step 1. Since there are no war columns, we move to step 2. There are no ravaged counters, so we move to step 3. Instead, this step, we form a war column by placing the Raid 3 instruction into the same space as a non-allied tribe counter. So we're going to put this guy on the map as well. So we have to choose a non-allied tribe nearest to an in-play rancheria. North war columns can use dashed line connections, so we must use random selection to choose the target of the raid. So our options, because our rancheria is here, so our options are Llano Estacado 2, which is here. That'll get a 1-2 result. 3 to 4 will go to Rio Grande number 1, which is here. And 5 and 6 will go to Red River number 5, which is here. So those are the closest to our rancheria. So we find a North War Column strength counter with a strength rating of 3. Oh, we don't put this out on the map. Duh. So we need a war counter with a strength of 3. And that's what this guy is right here. And we're going to roll a die and place it on top of the raid instruction. So that constitutes a thing. So we rolled we rolled a 6, which puts us in the Red River number 5 space. So that's right here. So they have a war column there now. Okay. The enemy now has 6 instructions remaining. Or 6 APs remaining, sorry. And our next instruction is Hunt 3. So we're going to spend 3 again. We're going to take this 2, and we're going to move this down 1. They now have 3 left. And so we need to randomly identify a territory in which other native hunters will be hunting bison. Let's say we roll a 1. This identifies the territory of Upper Arkansas because we have a 1 here on that die. All right. Since there is only one bison counter in this territory, we remove it from Upper Arkansas number 6 and place it back into available stock. So we take this guy off and we put him in available stock. I don't really have a space for bison here, but we'll just... Oh, duh. That's the out of play box, Joe. Available stock is right there. All right. Never mind. All right. If there'd been no bison in Upper Arkansas when we rolled a 1, we would instead try to remove 1 from the Lower Arkansas, which has a die for a roll face of 2, and then we'd have to use random selection because there's more than 1 bison in the Lower. We've got 2, I guess. Yeah, there's 2 left. 2 there in the Lower Arkansas. All right, so now we slide this guy over to inactive. Then we get the ally instruction again. All right, so we get another ally instruction. So we're going to remove this AP, and we're going to take this guy and put it back in 0. And since Red River 5 contains a war column, we cannot place the ally counter in that space. Instead, we will place the ally counter into Lower Arkansas number 3. So I'm going to take this guy, and we're going to put him right there. Now these 2 move up. This guy moves in here. Like so. And that takes care of that. So now we have to do our war column phase, since we have an active war column in play. Okay, so step 1 of our war column phase is to draw a card. Now there is no card here. If there was one, we would discard it. So we're going to draw a war card. And this is the one we get. And you're going to look first at the war column movement. So up here, now the only active enemy is north. The only one that has a war column is north. And it says 1. So they're going to move 1. Now, there are some instructions about how they should move. In this case, they're going to move towards our rancheria, which is here. So they're going to move 1 in that direction. So they move here. Okay, now we would roll a die for each war column in play. And this card basically gets discarded. So I'm going to put it out. And it says that we roll a 2. And now that 2 is less than the strength of this counter. So it actually gets reduced to a 2. So we take this out. And we put a 2 on there instead. So he had a little bit of attrition there as he's moving across the countryside here. And now we will draw... there's no effect on the bison, by the way. These guys are not hunting. They're moving to raid or attack. And now we have to roll a die. Oh, we did that already. Sorry. Next step is the war column, step 3. And we draw a second card from the deck, which is this guy right here. And we look at the war event. And it says countermeasure action, draw them off. After a band is marked as finished in a space adjacent to a war space, move the war column into that band space, not across dashed lines, then place the band into the nearest Rancheria resources box. Player's choice if more than 1. So we're going to put this in here because that stays there. Now, what does that mean for us? Even though we have a finished band adjacent to the Red River 6 space right here. Because the band's not active, nor are we conducting a take actions operation at this time, the card text does not apply. The card text can only apply if we perform a take actions operation this turn and then activate that band and mark it as finished in a space adjacent to a war column. So basically, as long as we move that away from there, they can't take our band out of action there. So now we go to steps 4 and 5 of the war column phase, and since there are no allied tribes, bands, or rancheria counters in the same space as the war column, nothing happens during these 2 steps. All right, so we have a war column moving towards us, right? It's moving in this direction. Here's our rancheria. What can we do about it? Barring the use of the countermeasure actions or the harass action on our culture card, Lord of the Plains level 2, which we don't have, the only overt thing the player can do to attack a war column is to perform a take actions operation and move a band into the same space as a war column and mark it as finished. During step 1 of the next war column phase, the war column would be prevented from moving. Then during step 4, the war column would fight a battle against the band. Losing a battle in a space that does not contain a rancheria is far better than losing a battle in the same space as a rancheria. So it is sometimes worthwhile to sacrifice a band in order to stop or weaken a war column. All right, so we're going to go back now to our operation selection phase and do another take actions operation. Okay, so we're going to flip all the bands in our Rancheria A resource box back to the unfinished side. So this guy will get back to being ready for action, and then we're going to put them into the 0 and 1 spaces of the medicine track. So I'm going to put them in here. So we're going to activate the 1 strength band in the 1 space and equip it with a horse, 2 bison, and 1 captive. So I'm going to take this. We're going to take, what did I say, 2 horses, a horse, 2 bison, and a captive. All right, so now we have a nice little stack here. All right, our 1 active band is loaded up with the resources that are good for trading. So we'll spend 1 of this band's 6 movement points. So they start here. And we're going to move them from 5 to 6, which costs us 1, right? That's an allied space now. So let's move this down to 5. Now we can do a trade action. So this is in rules section 5.2.4. It costs 1 movement point, or MP, to trade 1 tradable resource, horses, bison, or captives, for either a trade good or food resource. Guns can also be acquired in trade, but only if trade level 1 culture card has been put into play, which is not the case. So we're going to spend 1 MP and spend 1 of our band's bison counters. So we're going to take 1 of our bison off of here. And in return, we will collect 1 food, which is this guy right here. And we'll put that underneath, like so. All right, and now why is food more valuable to us than bison? Well, bison and captives have a population point or pop value of 1. Food has a pop value of 2, and we can see that right on the counter. So here on our food counter, you see the 2 there in the corner, and on a bison, of course, you see the value is a 1. Okay, so it's a more valuable resource, basically, and you can do a 1-for-1 trade, so it is to your benefit to do so. All right, so this, from a design note here, it says this represents the supplementation of the Comanche diet with food acquired from either sedentary tribes or colonialists. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to spend another MP. Now we're doing a second trade, which gives us 3, and then we're going to do a third trade to leave us with 2. So we're going to trade our bison and captives, and for these we're going to collect a trade good for the captives and food for the bison. So here is trade goods, so you can see what that looks like. Okay, it's got a fur on it. So we're going to do that, and we're going to stack these guys together, and then we're just going to move back here and put ourselves in our Rancheria resources and flip this guy to finished. Okay, and then we're going to decide not to activate this guy and just put him back in there. All right, so now we have to roll a die against this here. And what that gives us is a 3, and since it's less than or equal to the number in the space occupied by the marker, we have to slide this down to must do passage of time. And now we move on to our operations cleanup. So as before for step 1, we unstack our band that has possession of counters. So we're going to put this guy, here. Our horses will go here. The food will move, there. And our trade goods, like so. All right. So we've unstacked that, and next we roll a die for Rancheria A, and compare that result to the number of finished bands. So we have 1. We have 1 finished band, and we actually, unluckily for us, roll a 1. So the enemy gets to execute a free operation. We roll a die to identify which enemy. That die rolls a 5, so the west activates. And the west is the yellow, and their top one is a 4. And unfortunately, we roll a 1, which activates that one, and we flip it. Oh, maybe fortunately, I should have said we flip this back over to that, which is a settle. Now, currently, the enemy has no active APs right now. The enemy executes that very instruction because it's topmost in its column. Again, this is for free, so no APs need to be spent, and the enemy has 0, as I said. So they're gonna activate this settle. So I'm just gonna do that right now. So right now, Rio Grande 1, which is here, Llano Estacado 1 up here, and Llano Estacado 2 there are within 1 MP of the west square enemy space and connected by a colored enemy line connection, but only Llano Estacado 1 can receive a settlement due to stacking restrictions. So we're going to take one of the yellow settlements here and we're going to place it in Llano Estacado 1, where the bison are. Okay. And so we have to remove the bison from there and put it in the available resources box. Okay, so now we slide that over. All these move up. And this comes back over here. All right. Now we move to step 3. We draw a counter from the draw cup. It is a 4 enemy AP counter. We could redraw using our trade good counter. Okay, so here's where trade goods come into being a benefit. But we do have this enemy war column in play, so we want to hold on to that trade counter. So let me find a 4 enemy action counter and put that in the box here. So we'll do that. Okay, so now the enemy will try to spend those APs. We roll a die to determine which enemy. It's a 3, and that is the west again. So now we roll a die to flip an instruction, and our die rolls a 1. So our War 3 instruction flips to Culture 4, which is what's on the other side. Okay, so now the enemy is going to spend 4, which is the cost of that. So they're going to spend this 4 to do a culture instruction. As we saw earlier in the tutorial, that was in part 1. This is a very simple instruction to resolve. We reduce our culture points, of which we have 2, right here. It's the blue circle. Gets reduced by 2. -1 for the basic, and then -1 again because the active enemy has 1 settlement in play. So our active culture points go to 0. And having 0 culture points is not a good place to be. Another west or south culture instruction will cause us to lose the game because we would lose 2 military points for each culture point loss. And we have 3 military points. Yeah, so that's not good. We lose 2 for each one. So we're going to go ahead and reset it, which I already did. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. Yeah, this is going to go down here. We're just going to move everybody up like so. We now return to our war column phase. So we're going to discard this card. And we draw a card. So that's this guy right here. And West is not on there. So West is not on there. Or North, rather. North is not on there. That's where our war column is, sorry. West and North are both missing. So that means that column is not going to move. That's right, movement of active war columns is not guaranteed. We catch a break for step 2 of the war column phase. We still roll a die to see if it reduces in strength. Even though it didn't move, our die rolls a 2, and so the strength does not reduce. Step 3, we draw a new card and check the event text. And this is the card we draw. So when revealed, fast moving column, if war column not in the same space as band, rancheria, or allied tribe, draw another war card and check for movement only. Do not roll to reduce war column strength. Do not draw another event. So we'll put that in there. So now, because we have to roll a die, we have to draw another card to check for movement only. And this one says North 1. We check the movement portion only, so they get to move one space from Red River 6 to Upper Arkansas 4, so they're going to move up here. Unfortunately for us, and we do not roll the dice to see if it reduces in strength, and we can also not use the trade goods to redraw a card. So that brings us to the end of the war column phase. This time, during the operation selection phase, we are forced to choose passage of time because the operations counter is in the must-do passage of time box on the operations track. All right, so passage of time is a fairly lengthy process, so we're going to walk through. So step 1 is to flip our 1 strength band to its unfinished side. So I'm going to flip this guy over to unfinished. And we're going to do the same with this band out here. They also get to be flipped to unfinished. Then step 2 is where we can create new band counters. If we want to create a new band in Rancheria A, we would have to spend 1 pop point. If we want to create 2, we'd have to spend 3 pop points. We have 4 pop points worth of food that we could spend and 1 pop point represented by the captives counter. So let's spend our captives counter. That's this one right here. And as you can see, it's pop, whoops, sorry, I hit the camera. Pop value is 1. So we're going to put this back in here. And we're going to generate a new 1 strength band. So I will take one of these and put this in here. We now have 3 of these. I can actually stack them. We have 3 1 strength bands in there now. I can move this, spread this stuff out a little bit. And new bands can only be created in a rancheria, so you can't just stick them out on the map somewhere. Step 3, we can spend resource to strengthen bands. So we have that lone 2 strength band out here in Lower Arkansas 5. We're going to spend the bison counter he possesses. Right, so he's got 1. Now it's not this one that he doesn't possess, it's this one. So I'm going to take this and we're going to put it back in here. And then he gets swapped out for 3 because he's now stronger. So we'll put a 3 on there. Next, we spend both food counters from Rancheria A, 4 pop points. Each pop point will allow us to increase a band by 1 strength. So we'll use 3 of the 4 to increase all 3 bands to 2 strength. So we're going to put these back, and we're going to put these back, and we're going to increase, we're going to pull 3 2s out here and put them on there. So we're strengthening our tribe here, strengthening our warriors. We have 1 point left, so we're going to increase one of the bands to 3. So we'll put this guy back, and one of them will be a 3. All right, and I'm making a mess here, knocking stuff over. Okay, all right, step 4, we can place a new rancheria. This is why we left that band by itself in Lower Arkansas number 5. So we're going to place the hexagonal Rancheria B, which is this guy right here, and this is going to be their resource box, and it's going to go right here. Now we're going to move the 3 strength band into the box, the resource box there for it, and we'll spread it out. So, and these guys will go out as well. Whoops. That goes in there. This goes here, and this goes there. Okay, the band that was used to create this rancheria has a strength of 3, so that gives the new rancheria's para Ibo a medicine rating of 3. So I'm going to draw and move him up there. And since there was no Mahimiana counter possessed by the band that created the rancheria, we placed the Mahimiana in 0, which is where I did. In this step, we can voluntarily retire any Mahimianas and transfer that Mahimiana's medicine to the para Ibo. Now, why would we want to do this? Because it will keep us from making a death check for our para Ibo, and in this case, will actually increase our para Ibo's medicine rating. So we're going to do this in Rancheria A. So we're going to increase our para Ibo's medicine from 2 to 4. And we're going to reduce our Mahimiana to 0. What has happened here is this. Our Mahimiana has become the new para Ibo. Now a younger warrior will become the Mahimiana. We will find out what the Mahimiana's medicine is when we get to step 7. So now we're going to roll our dice for our Headman with a medicine rating of 0. We will have the result, rounding down as usual, and this will be that Mahimiana's medicine rating. So let's say we roll a 1 for this guy here, in Rancheria A. Normally that would round down to 0, but the rules say that a Mahimiana's medicine will be set to a minimum of 1. I'm going to move him here. And then we'd have to roll for Rancheria B. We get a 4, so that gives him 2. Step 8 is return the 3 success counters in the out-of-play box. So we've got 2 here, and I have 1 over here that I put off the board. They go back in the cup. Step 9 doesn't apply. This step would only apply if the player makes use of the horsemanship level 2 culture card, which we do not have yet. We don't have any culture cards yet. Step 10, this is the time in which tribe and settlement counters can normally be killed, but since there are no ravaged counters on any tribe or settlement counters, instead of removing such a piece, we lose 1 military point. So we're going to reduce our military points from 3 to 2 on our general record track, so that's right there. Step 11, now we have to check to see if any piece spaces revert to enemy space status. So we make a die roll for our ally counter up here in Upper Arkansas number 5. Our die roll's a 5. Since our die roll is greater than the AP cost of the ally counter, which is 3, the piece is over. So enemies once more. So I'm going to take this off and put it back on the track. And just like that, we are no longer meeting our victory check objective for the history card H1. We were meeting it when we had the Rancheria back in step 4. Now we no longer control Upper Arkansas. We no longer meet the requirement. Now we have to do this again for our ally in Lower Arkansas number 3. Right here, that's also a 3. This time our die roll is a 3, so the ally counter will remain where it is. Now we move to step number 12. In this step, we get to place a new bison counter onto the map. First, we randomly select a territory by making a die roll. Now again, you have die markers here that are color-coded to the area they go with. So Upper Arkansas is purple, it's a 1. We've got this greenish blue here for 2. That's the Lower Arkansas. The Red River is 4. Brazos, Colorado's 5. Rio Grande is 6. And the Llano Estacado is a 3. So we're going to roll. We roll a 4, which is Red River. Since there are no empty spaces in this territory, rather than placing a bison from stock, we remove a bison from any space in this territory, our own choice, and we can put it wherever we want on the map. So we're going to take the bison from Red River number 4, that's this one, and we're going to place it in Upper Arkansas number 1. It'll be nice and easy for us to grab it. This just basically means the bison herds have migrated into areas that were previously depleted. Now, since there's 1 development card space that is blank right there, that's where we took our Ute Alliance card during planning. We're going to repeat this step. This time our die roll is a 1. There are 2 empty spaces in Upper Arkansas, so let's take a bison counter from our available resource box. And right here, I always look at the wrong box first. Think I'd get over that and place it in Upper Arkansas number 6. Let's keep them local. And we'll go on to step 13. We're going to discard the War of the Spanish Succession. That's this card right here. This is going to get removed. And the Apache War as well. So this one also gets removed. And I showed those in part 1. They will get discarded. Now we have to draw 3 cards, and we draw them one at a time. So our development deck is up here, right here. So we're going to draw the first card. It is French Traders. So you look at it, and French Traders paddle upriver from Louisiana. Spend 1 AP to take into hand. Play from hand during take actions to conduct a trade action. We don't have any APs right now, but I'm going to read this anyway. Per 5.2.4, but no AP cost. With active band in an empty round map space of Lower Arkansas, Red River, or Brazos, Colorado. Active band may spend up to 2 bison and or horse counters for an equal number of guns in this trade action. So I'm going to put that one there. Now we'll draw our second one. And that is the Siege of La Jicarilla, maybe Jicarilla, I don't know. I'm bad at Spanish. Comanche attacks on Apache villages culminate in a 9-day battle. This is another one that you have to spend an AP to take into hand, and then you can play from hand and place 2 ravaged counters on any tribe. That's pretty good. If discarded during passage of time, advance passage of time, counter one space toward must do passage of time. So I'm going to put this here. And then our third and final draw, and I'll put this back, is disease. When revealed, target one in-play Rancheria, reduce strength of all bands and targeted Rancheria's resource box by 1. Discard this card, do not draw another in its place. Well, that sucks. So since we have 2 Rancherias, we'll do Rancheria A on a die roll of 1 to 3 and Rancheria B on 4 to 6. Our die rolls are 2, so each band in Rancheria 1 is reduced by 1. That'll leave us with 2 1 strength and a 2 strength band. So we're going to take all of these out of here. I never put the 3 in there, did I? Where did I put the 3? I put it up here. Put it in the wrong Rancheria. All right, well, they're going to keep one of those, and they're going to get 2 1/6s as well. All right, this guy is up here. All right, let's keep our Rancheria separate here, fellas. All right. Okay, step 14. Since we have 0 culture points, we are unable to buy a culture card at this time. That's rough. Now we have to place the operations counter back into the start. And we have to move the passage of time counter. Because if it was in a numbered spot, then we would have to do a die roll. We'd have to roll a die and see if we were forced to take a victory check. But since it's not, we will advance it 1 space towards must do passage of time. So it's going to move down here. I put that there on setup, but I don't see it in the shot here. So I don't know if I screwed something up back in part 1 or not. Please note the red text on the bottom of development card number 11, the Siege of La Jicaria. If this card hasn't been purchased during planning and taken into hand before your next passage of time, it will be discarded during step 13, and when it's discarded, it will advance the passage of time counter 1 space. You can run out of time to fulfill your victory check objectives if you are not careful. Please also take note of the north instruction G on the operations track. Oh, that's right here. That's what I was just wondering about. We placed this counter here during setup to remind us that per history card H1's text, this counter will go into the draw cup after our first passage of time. Put it in the cup. So it's going in there. So that's a war with our northern enemy tribes there. Now we're back to Operation Cleanup Phase. In step 1 of this Operation Cleanup Phase, we will unstack the band in Rancheria B, so it no longer, I already did that. Step 2 doesn't apply at this time as there are no finished bands. For step 3, let's say we draw a success counter, but since the enemy has no APs to spend, we move on to step 4, which does not apply at this time. So now we're back at our war column phase. We're going to discard our card here. Okay. Now let's say we draw W25. So let me find that card here. There it is. And guess what it says? It says, reshuffle, then draw again if this was a movement. For the war event, it says, when revealed, reshuffle war cards deck, draw another card, and place it face up into the war event box on the map. So we're going to have to reshuffle our cards. Okay, so we reshuffle and we draw this card. And as you can see at the top, it says it does not have anything for north, so our war column does not move, and we discard this one, and then we'll draw the event off the next card. And that's this card right here, and you can see war event, countermeasure action, surrender captives. After a band possessing 1 or more captives is marked as finish in a war space, spend all captives possessed by this band, then war ends if greater than 1 war column in space, only 1 war ends, player's choice. So we're going to put this here. Okay, so taking note of the countermeasure action on the card in the war event box, we would take actions and use our band in Rancheria B to drop off some captives and end the war. Or we could, I guess. But where would be the adventure in that? Instead, I think a more pressing concern is our lack of culture points. So now's a great time to correct that deficiency. Let's take a culture operation. Culture operations are the simplest operation to execute. We gain 1 culture point for each territory that contains a rancheria. Note that having more than one rancheria in a territory doesn't give you any extra points. So you get 1 point per territory. Right now we have a rancheria in 2 different territories, so we gain 2 culture points. We would have gained a 3rd culture point if we controlled Upper Arkansas, which we do not. Go ahead and advance our culture points counter to 2. We're back up here. Next, advance the operation marker 1 space towards passage of time, or must do passage of time down here. In the operation cleanup phase, we can skip steps 1 and 2 since they don't apply. In step 3, we once more draw a success counter and nothing happens. Back to our war column phase, so we're going to discard this one. We draw a card. Okay, so we draw this one, and north 1. So they're going to move. Well, that's not good. So they're going to move into the same space with our rancheria, so we're going to have a battle. And I think that's the point of this portion of the tutorial, to be honest. But we do get to roll a die roll, and we would need a 1 to reduce them to a 1 in strength. They're currently a 2. But we roll a 2, and so that is close but no cigar there. So no change in their strength. Now we're going to draw another war event card. We draw this guy right here. And it says, when revealed, higher stakes. At the end of this turn's operation cleanup phase, if there is at least 1 war column in play, 1 military point, if there are -1 military point, sorry. And if there are none, +1 military point. So now it becomes somewhat imperative that we destroy this guy in battle, get rid of this war column, because then we'll gain a military point, which would move us back from 2 to 3, which would be nice. We're going to likely win this one, so hopefully that war column will be gone. So step 4 of the war column phase in this case does not apply, but step 5 now applies. Here we are confronted with a choice. We can lose 1 military point and fight a battle, or we can lose 2 military points and surrender any captives Rancheria A has, but we don't have any in Rancheria A, but this option's still open to us, and not have to fight a battle. The latter choice will not end the war, however. It would only reduce its strength and place the war column in a new starting space. And in our present case, it would be right next door in Upper Arkansas, number 5 over here. So that's not a good choice. So our sound choice is to take the 1 military point loss, move that to 1. Okay, so we have a design note here that I'll read to you. Why do we lose a military point if we choose to fight? Because they found a concentration of our population, which has a large number of women and children. There's a loss of prestige here. This is why it's preferred to fight with a band outside of a rancheria, even though such a band will usually be in a finished state and thus not as well equipped to fight a successful battle. So we're going to move on to the battle, and players of Navajo Wars will note that the battles here in Comancheria are a little bit different than they are in Navajo Wars. Okay, because this battle is taking place in the same space as the Rancheria, we will need to choose which band is going to fight for us this round. Obviously, if there's only one band or the battle is in a space without Rancheria, that band would be the Comanche unit. Please note that if the battle is in the same space as an allied tribe, that ally is defined as the Comanche unit, even though they're not Comanche per se. So we're going to choose our 2 strength band and equip it with a horse, our trade goods, and Mahimiana from Rancheria A's resource box. So we're going to take our 2-5, our Mahimiana, and a horse, and a trade good. So we're going to take all of this stuff. I'm just going to put it out here for now, even though it doesn't necessarily say that we have to do that. So we have no guns, so we simply roll 1 die and add the modifiers listed in Rule 7.1, Step 2. In our case, this means we get +2 for our band strength, +1 for having our Mahimiana with our band, +1 for having a horse with our band, as per the horsemanship level 1 culture card, which we have in our possession. It's right here. You can see that it gives us a +1 battle DRM for Comanche bands in possession of a horses counter. That's why we took the horses with us. Okay, so the enemy war column's war strength counter has a battle DRM. That is the white number here. Let me pick this up so you guys can see it a little better. And it's right there, that white 0. So they don't get anything for that. So just for clarification, the 2 is their strength rating, and the battle die roll modifier is -0. So basically, they don't modify their roll. That's all that means. Our die roll is an unlucky 1. Not only is our die roll not a modified 6 or higher, but because it's an unmodified 1, we lose. Not willing to accept this result, okay, and we find out why we brought along trade goods, because we can spend the trade goods to re-roll the die. And if we hadn't done that, we would not be able to use it. And our re-roll is better. It is a 6, as we see in step 3 of battles. An unmodified 6 is always a Comanche win. So now we check rule 7.2 and see that the consequence of a Comanche win is that we decrease the war column strength by 1. Since that does not bring it to 0 and eliminate them, we have to fight another round of battle. So I'm going to take this guy off, just for clarification's sake. And actually, I just needed to flip it over. But there it is. It's now a 1 with still a 0 DRM. Okay, so we repeat our step 1 of the battle and continue to use our 2 strength band who still possess a horse and Mahimiana. Our battle roll dot modifiers are still a +4, so anything other than a 1 will win this battle once and for all. Tip, never say this out loud. In fact, it's tempting fate to even think about it. We roll, and it's a 2. So, wow, yeah, we flirted with disaster, but we did win. So modified to a 6, we win this round as well. So as per rule 7.2, the war is over. We remove the strength counter from the map and place it back into stock. The raid counters return to the topmost empty space on its display of the enemy instruction display. So we will do that. This guy goes out. This guy goes over here behind the ally marker. And finally, we're going to increase the medicine rating of the Rancheria A's Mahimiana from 1 to 2, because he won a battle. And be sure to place the 2 strength band back into Rancheria A's resource box if you took them out, which I did. So I'm going to put them back in here. Also, be sure not to unstack his counters. He retains possession of the horse and the Mahimiana until the next operation cleanup phase. All right, so this is the end of the tutorial. At this point, you should have a good enough grasp of the mechanics of the game that you should be able to play on from here. We encourage you to keep playing, at least until you reach the end of the first historic period. Scenarios 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, and 9.6 all start with the first historic period, so you can conceivably play till the end of the second, third, or even fourth if you want. Be sure to remember to gain 1 military point back during this turn's operation cleanup phase due to the current war event. Now, if you've read all the reading assignments in the tutorial, which I have, you will have read most of the rulebook by now. Some sections not covered by the tutorial, 2.10, 2.10, deals with victory checks. These only occur at the end of an historical period. 6.2.2c handles what to do when you draw an instruction counter during a success check or during the operation cleanup phase. 6.3.3 encroach instruction is like the settle instruction, except that it places tribe counters back on the map. 6.3.5 peace instruction is handled similarly to that of the ally instruction we did in the tutorial. 6.3.9 subjugate is how colonial enemies will remove tribes. This may seem to help the player, but it really doesn't. It merely replaces one enemy with a more troubling one. 6.3.10 war instruction is similar to the raid instruction that we did, but there are some important differences. Section 8 of the rules handles the reservation, which is something that comes into play during the fourth period of the game. And Section 9 deals with setup. There are a number of scenarios. We recommend you play the easier ones first to get a feel for how to play the game well before taking on the harder scenarios, which will carry tougher decision making. That is it. This is a long video. If you did make it all the way through, congrats. And that's without skipping. If you skipped ahead, no congrats. Okay, you cheated. Just kidding. But yeah, thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. Obviously, if you have the game, you have the tutorial. But as some people would rather maybe watch than, read, our more visual learners, I guess you might say, they may prefer this approach. I hope that this was useful. I probably will play more of this game, but because I have such a backlog, it may be a while before I do it again for video, if I do it again for video at all. So for now, that's going to wrap up our Comancheria series, and we'll be moving on to something else for next time's Solo Sunday effort. But please consider liking, sharing, and or possibly even, dare I say, subscribing. But even if you don't, I hope you'll come back and check out something in the future. For now, that will do it. My name's Joe, and this is the Hexed Encounter channel. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.